Most points in a postseason game in Knicks franchise history, and most of those coming with starters on ice in the second half. CBS NBA analyst John Gonzalez and Noah Buono in to react. And guys, there's lopsided, then there's this, whatever that was. Knicks by a million, shooting it fantastic from the field. You got Cat with a triple-double with just 4 shots from the field. John, I feel like the headline was written about 12 minutes into this one. What does it read?
Yeah, that the Knicks were spectacular, not just in this game, but in this series. Yes, they lost 2 games, but they lost both of those games by 1 point each, right? So I thought that this thing was going to go 7. I thought that the Hawks would put up a fight. And despite the fact that they got 2 games off of the Knicks, this was really a no contest. The Knicks were just clearly better than the Hawks in this series. The Hawks didn't have enough offense. And then the Knicks defense is the thing that was most impressive to me, because it was a little suspect at times this season. They didn't play well against teams that were 500 or better. They only broke even during the regular season against those teams. So I wanted to see what it would look like once they got into the postseason. And so far, first round, I mean, they've got more work to do. We'll see how it goes in the second round. But against the Hawks, to hold them, in this game to under 100 points and just dominate at both ends of the floor, they won everywhere. And one more thing I wanted to highlight, Karl Anthony Towns finally kind of like playing through him and taking some of the offensive onus off of Jalen Brunson. That's a big win for the Knicks going forward. So they look fantastic right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually am just like sitting back laughing at the day-by-day, game-by-game overreactions that we constantly get during these series. Because if you remember, when the Knicks went down 2-1 after Game 3, there was a few prominent media members, and I'll quote without any names, "The Knicks are a disappointment. They're on the verge of losing this series." Like, the talk was really, disbelief in the Knicks and what they were about, and then they go on to win these last 3 games by an average of 32 points per game. So they showed you who the better team was all along. They only lost those 2 games by a combined 2 points in games 2 and 3 at the final shot. So, the overreactions just tire me out, because the Knicks were always the better team, and they were trying to figure out how to utilize Jalen Brunson, and they finally got him rolling in Game 5 when he had 39 points, and they were running him a ton of actions, just getting him clean looks. And you saw that in Game 5. That propelled this massive blowout. Honestly, what a disgusting performance just on both sides. Unbelievable credit to the Knicks and Atlanta Hawks. What were we even doing? Why bother showing up? I don't know what to make of it, because it's just flat out embarrassing to come out on your home floor and get steamrolled within the first 6 minutes. I think the broadcast stopped keeping track, but it was a 39-4 extended run midway point of the second quarter over a 10-minute span. And at that point, there was no hope. So just a brilliant, brilliant performance. That's the prime example of a high-level team playing the best of the best that they can play versus another team just self-combusting right in front of us and just ultimately could not compete with a New York Knicks team that has title aspirations.
All sorts of numerical history coming out of this one, including that 47-point advantage at the half. Noah, to your initial point there, the general consensus or the broader conversation will no doubt move the bar on these Knicks once again. And I do want to push them forward. Before we do look at their Eastern Conference semifinal outlook, let's close the book on the Hawks here. They seem to close it on themselves here through about 10 minutes of this one. This is going out on a different type of note. I'm not sure if it lingers, but at the same time, this was such a season of transition. You have a star jettisoned. You have a moving expectation. Noah, how do they become more than a happy to be here team, if that's putting it eloquently?
Yeah, I think you're onto something, because they did have these, big changes in the middle of the year, getting rid of their franchise player, Trae Young, kind of leaning more into the Jalen Johnson system and this defensive identity, bringing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker and the year that he had. I mean, let's not forget they drafted Zachary Richichet last year, first overall. He was nowhere to be found in this rotation in the regular season, and let alone in this postseason. So, that's a little concerning. I do think they they do have something to hang their hat on. They should be happy with what they achieved this year. Being a top 6 team in the East, not being in the play-in, that's a big deal for the Atlanta Hawks, given that they've been in, the play-in every single year, if not making it at all. But, ultimately they have an aging number 2, number 3 type of option in CJ McCollum, who had 2 really, really fine games in this series. And then you saw, run out of gas, run out of steam. But Jalen Johnson is a superstar, or has superstar potential, I should say. He really, had a coming out party this year. He's going to be on one of the 3 All-NBA teams, probably 3rd in most people's ballots. And he's a bright spot that they really can lean on in the coming years.
Yeah, I think the Hawks had a good season. I mean, look, this is not the way that they wanted the season to end, but it's certainly still a good season. After the All-Star break, they had the 4th best record in the NBA behind the Spurs, the Thunder, and the Celtics. Now, this was the kind of crash out that might linger a little bit, but the building blocks there in Atlanta are good. As Noah said, Jalen Johnson, fantastic, going to make All-NBA most likely. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they get him from Minnesota, where he was a really useful bench player, but he levels up into a plus-level starter. He wasn't great in this series, but I still like him. They need to improve that front court. They have to decide what they're going to do with CJ McCollum, who's really just a throw-in, like an expiring contract in that trade deal, and he's a free agent now, and they might want to keep him around. Kuminga has a team option. The good news here is that front office, led by Ansi Saleh, is a really smart group of people. And thank you, Joe Dumars, they get the better of either the Pelicans or the Bucks pick. And if it's the Pelicans pick, right now it's got about a 29% chance at landing in the top 4, outside 7% chance at landing at number 1. So there's some nice things to be encouraged by if you're Atlanta. Not this series necessarily, and certainly not this game, but moving forward, especially with Jalen Johnson being a superstar. Yeah, you could do worse than being the Atlanta Hawks right now.
I hope that little Boosie's okay. I know we're all thinking of him.
I
Knicks
don't.
Play on to a familiar place. A 4th consecutive conference semi here for the Knicks. But in some ways, this feels like a movie we've seen time and again before as well, fellas. John, what, if anything, did this series reveal about the Knicks that feels a little bit different that they could take forward with them?
2 things. One, as I mentioned, the defense. The defense, I wasn't sure about. It had little fits and starts during the regular season. It really improved as the season went on, but I wanted to see them do it against a good team. And despite the fact that the Hawks are limited offensively, this is a good first step for that Knicks defense. And then the other thing is Karl-Anthony Towns, because coming into the postseason that Jalen Brunson's the guy, right? And they're going to put a lot of the offensive onus on Jalen Brunson. I wanted to see Karl-Anthony Towns really step forward as a 1A option. And early in the series, he'd have a good first half or a good second half than games 1 and 2. And then as the series continued, he started putting it together in total over an entire game. And he had his 2nd playoff triple-double in this series. And he joins only Walt Clyde Frazier as the only 2 Knicks in Knicks history to have multiple triple-doubles, not just in a series, but in the playoffs period. So Karl-Anthony Towns emerging as a guy who can really be relied on is huge for the Knicks going forward. Now, Mikal Bridges, a little iffy at times, had a good game tonight. Everybody had a good game tonight. They need Bridges to be able to play at both ends of the floor. But OG Anunoby also, he was, I think, the most consistent player for the Knicks in this entire series. So having 3 guys at least in Jalen Brunson, Cat, and OG Anunoby, who you can count on, along with that defense, that's something to start.
Yeah, and as John mentioned, the defense, if I had to give 2 things, I'd go right where John was with the defense. I mean, you saw it in the first 6 minutes of the game. That was a near pristine, perfect game that you could ask for the New York Knicks defense to play. And John's right. The Atlanta Hawks offense ran out of steam, gas. They didn't really have much to offer. It's not like they were going up against a potent, Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown type of team. So, it might have looked a little bit, even better than what it will in the coming rounds. But on top of that, it's OG Anunoby for me. Like when you have a guy like that that's not necessarily looked at as your 2nd option and really is just, maybe your 3rd option. If Mikal Bridges is playing better, maybe he jumps OG Anunoby sometimes, behind Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. But what OG Anunoby is doing in this postseason, they've played 6 games, is remarkable. And if he continues to play like this and he can stay healthy and on the floor for the New York Knicks, the versatility that he brings on not just defense, but the way he's playing offensively. And you heard him after the first quarter, in the sideline interview, and he just talked about, I just work on my game. And you can see that. It is very simple why he is playing so good. He has worked on his game. He is unbelievably confident. And his size and his physicality and his approach with whoever is in front of him does not matter. He is going right through your chest. He's knocking down open shots. And I think when you have a piece like that, if Karl Anthony Towns is 1A or 1B to Jalen Brunson, and OG Anunoby is now jumping up to that full-blown second option line, that's a big, big deal for the New York Knicks moving forward.
That's time on task and some continuity that other teams can't lean on at this point either. We'll see what the Knicks can turn it into. John, Noah, we appreciate the insight as always. All right, a look here at the most points in a playoff game in Knicks history. This was a no-doubter. Done through 12, a sure thing at half, and man, they just kept running it up. The Knicks led by as many as 61 in this contest, 140 playoff franchise record.